Welcome back to another video of me hard modding another console. So the last video I did was my Xbox 360, and now I'm going to do my Switch. My Nintendo Switch OLED. I got the white version, and I got the dock. It came with a dock, a charger, and all that other good stuff. So I have modded many consoles, but I'm only recording the ones that I've hard modded because I don't know, it seems interesting. Now the Xbox 360 is way easier than the Switch. The Xbox 360 is more fatter and more laid out, while the Switch has super tiny components. It's literally impossible without a microscope, I feel like. Well, for a noob like me. But as you can tell by me posting this video, it went well. Didn't really make any mistakes here, unlike the Xbox 360 one, so I'm really proud of myself. I will say in my last video, I talked about how I had unleaded solder, which kind of caused an issue and me not knowing anything about it, so I kind of ripped a pad off, which is not ideal. So I got new solder, which is leaded, and it's literally night and day, even for someone who isn't experienced in soldering. Anyway, so I'm gonna start this video of me just disassembling the Switch. If you've already seen many videos of disassembling whatever and it looks boring to you, just skip ahead. I'll have chapters in the video. So to disassemble the Switch, I had to take off the back cover. I didn't have to unscrew all the screws on where the Joy-Con slide on. I didn't know that at the time, but I'm pretty sure you just need to unscrew the top ones on the left side and on the right side, and then you can just pop the back cover out when you unscrew the two screws on the bottom and one screw on top. So after I took off the back cover, I am now greeted with the metal shield. So there's like 9 screws I had to unscrew, and one of them I think was stripped because I could not get the head to come out. So I just ended up just pulling it out, which is not ideal, but I think that thread and screw is just messed up. So after I took off the metal shield, I had to use a little bit of force because of the thermal paste, and got to be careful with the wires. I don't feel like undoing them from wherever they came from, but so I'm just gonna leave the top shield up like this, and then I'm just gonna start unplugging things like the battery, just to because I'm working on it. I don't want to get shocked or whatever. So now I gotta take off the game cartridge slot thing. It's a board. It's real easy to replace if it ever messes up, which is really nice. It's just one screw holding it, which is at the very top, because I'm pretty sure I already unscrewed from wherever I was screwing, from I think the metal shield. Yeah, so I'll pop that off real quick. So right here I gotta take off the heatsink. It's just 3 screws, which is pretty easy. So after I unscrew it, I gotta take the top shield off right here. It's just held on by sticky stuff, so I just gotta pull it up a little bit, and I gotta make sure I don't bend it or whatever. And then I also gotta go against the thermal paste that it's under, and you can see in the middle it's a little bit dried up. So now I'm just gonna unplug all the ribbon cables. I gotta unlatch the lock and then just pull out the ribbons. There's like multiple ribbon cables on every single corner of the damn board. It's a very tiny motherboard, but with this ribbon cable I gotta be really delicate because this is the OLED cable. It's what causes you to see the screen, So after taking off all the ribbon cables, I just decided to unscrew all the screws from the motherboard and then pull out the speaker plugs, since it was the last thing holding this into the case. And so now I can take out the motherboard. I didn't really record it, but what I need to do now is I need to unlatch this shield off, and it has locks locking it in, so I can't just pull up on it or not I'll break it or something. So I literally need the tiniest needle that I could find to get it in that little tiny notch. It's literally impossible with anything else. So I want to make sure I don't scratch any traces off the board while I'm using this needle. As you can see, it can scrape off the mask or just completely ruin a trace that will just break this whole motherboard, and that's it. I gotta buy a new one. But as you can see, I just put the needle into this little notch, and it's very hard. Like, you don't understand. Like, I had to have steady hands. Like, I can't shake nothing. So I found a trick on how to actually succeed 100% of the time, which I just push the shield like towards me, and then once it's in there, I just lift it up so I can push it straight down. And once I push it down just enough, I don't put a lot of force into it, I just lean it against the shield so I can just lift up the lock. You don't want to push any force down, because then look right here, I'm going to show I kind of just hit the motherboard a little bit and it scraped it, but luckily nothing happened. So after I take off the locks, I just pull the shield out like this, and then now what I got to do is I got to destroy where the shield was latched onto. I got to destroy it by clipping this side right here. You don't have to do it the whole side like what I'm doing right here, and then now it's just open from here. So after I snap it off, I just got to wiggle it back and forth to tear it off. So now what I'm gonna do is, right next to the APU, I need to scratch off this little trace head right here because of the mask on top of it. So it's exactly like the Xbox 360, although I am more comfortable now. Like, it's like super simple. Just don't scratch too far. Just keep it, just slow. And it looks like it's not getting scratched off, but that's because of the debris. So once you clean it, you'll be able to see it more. But yeah, once I scratch it off, I just gotta pre-tin it. Did not do the greatest. For some reason, I don't know how the solder was on the mask itself. It was getting everywhere, and it even got on a capacitor that in the future I did have to solder, but it did not need to be soldered right now. It was getting everywhere. I made a mistake there, but luckily it wasn't a huge mistake. I just cleaned off all the solder, and then I actually got to solder the point itself. Didn't look the greatest, but the job's done. So now I'm just gonna clean up the APU. I'm gonna take a dry Q-tip and just take off as much thermal paste as I can, and then I'm gonna add some isopropyl alcohol. And then once I get all that gunk out and all that's left is just the thermal paste in between the capacitors, I'm just gonna take this brush that I have for my flux, but I actually just use it for my my isopropyl alcohol. It does actually do the job well. So once that's all clean, I also clean off the thermal paste off the metal shield, and then now I have to actually flip the board over, and right here is another metal shield that I gotta open. Luckily these don't have any locks, so all I gotta do is just take my nail underneath it and just pry it off. So this right here is, I'm pretty sure, the EMMS or something like that, EMMC. But now I gotta put this orange little circuit trace thing. This is actually an alternative method to the kamikaze method, which is, as it sounds like, you actually have to dig into the board, like actually tear off layers of the board. I'm obviously not going to do that. I'm not experienced enough in this, and I do not want to break my motherboard, because you have to tear layers of the motherboard off in this area, and it's right next to a trace, and I'm not doing all that. The reason why it's a preferred method is because you're soldering directly to a point rather than on the trace. You're, you know, just shoving it underneath the chip and hoping it connects, you know, because over time it'll move and stuff like that. Well, obviously I'm going to solder it down, like, you know, but that's what they say, like over time it just disconnect, I guess, and then you'd have to redo it. I also have to tear off this edge piece right here on the shield, because I need a wire to run through there whenever I put the shield back on. You know, when I put the trace under the chip, I'm gonna solder it on the left and right side of it. There's like tiny capacitors there, and then I gotta solder it to the ground, which is where the metal shield was, and then I gotta solder the circuit trace at the end right here. So I'm gonna connect a wire there, and then it's gonna lead to the other side of the board. So the wire needs to go somewhere, so that's why I had to tear this metal shield off. Whenever you shove the I'm gonna just call it a ribbon. Everyone bear with me, I don't know what it's, who cares, right? So whenever you shove the ribbon underneath the chip, you want to make sure you're putting pressure while you solder it down. Whenever you shove it down there, you have to tap the trace with a multimeter and put it in diode mode, and then check the volts on it. It should read a 0.4, but for some reason mine was like reading 1.0, 1.3. A lot of people say it's different for others, and I don't know if maybe I had the settings wrong on my multimeter, but it doesn't matter because it worked at the end of the day. But it did feel like I couldn't do it because I thought it had to be 0.4, so I did take like a break because I was getting frustrated, and you don't want to work on something when you're frustrated, especially as something as important as this. So just take your time. I mean, it really doesn't matter as long as you feel like you're up to it, because if you don't, you're just gonna make mistakes, and it's just something you don't want to do. So right here I'm just going to show you a bit of me soldering it to the ground. So right here you can see I'm connecting it beautifully. Not really great, I mean, it's a little bit tall. I just gotta stop using a lot of solder. So after I do the ground, right here I'm going to solder the capacitors to the ribbon. So on the left side you can see right here there's a little tiny capacitor. So I'm just going to connect it here, and then on the other side it's like impossible to do without a tiny iron head. I had this little tiny tip. Pause. I used a wireless solder, and I had a small tip for it, so I was like, why not, let me just use it, and I connected it somehow. So after I connect everything, now I'm gonna put solder onto the little trace here. So I'm just gonna get it prepped for when I need to put the wire in. So after tinning the point, I did end up connecting the wire, but after doing that, I'm gonna flip over the board again, and now I gotta connect this other ribbon cable, this black one. This one is very scary to do because you see the 8 point right here? Yeah, so that's a very tiny capacitor. Like, it's like hard, you can't even see it when you're looking at it. You have to really like put the board in your eyeball to see it, but obviously in the microscope you can see it. But that tiny little capacitor is very heat sensitive, so if you leave that just a little bit, even over a millisecond than when you're supposed to, it'll break it, and then you'll just get a purple screen on your Nintendo, and you basically can't see nothing, can't do anything with it, and your project's over. It is easy to replace it. There's capacitors out there you can just buy it and just replace it, but it's like more annoying to do that, and I'm not really gonna want to do all that. So right here I am just heating up the ground pad. I'm trying to connect solder to it. So what I actually learned later on is that the ground pads, you need a higher temperature, which I was not using, so it is going to take me a little while to actually get the solder onto the ground. Normally you want like 425 Celsius or higher, just because, you know, you lose that heat. So I didn't know that. I know, basic science. So right here I'm just connecting the ground to the metal shield. The ribbon was moving a lot, and I kept having to readjust it over and over, but I mean, the easy fix for that is just tape, which I didn't care about. So the first ground actually looked really good. The second ground, not so much, because I try to take off a lot of solder off. I used a little bit of a wick because they said like if you have a little bit, it'll be better because, you know, less area to heat up, so it'll be faster to heat up more. So that was a mistake because the wick ended up undoing itself, I guess, and started just getting stuck to the solder, and it looks ugly, but that's all it is. It just looks ugly, but it still works, so it doesn't matter. So after connecting the grounds, now I'm going to connect the other side of the ribbon so it can be held, you know, because it's still a little bit wobbly on the other side. It doesn't look the greatest. I can barely kind of see it because of all the flux around it. It looks, you know, too shiny, but I promise it went well. It did the job. And then now what I need to do is I need to connect this capacitor to this point right here on the ribbon. Right now it looks a little bit of a mess, so I'm just going to clean off the flux off of it. So ideally, you don't want to see any of the metal on the capacitor. It should be covered by the solder for it to look good and a good connection. So right here, you can see that. And now I am going to move on to the scariest point, which is the A point. This is the capacitor I was talking about, where it's super heat sensitive. So I need to connect this tiny capacitor to this pad without burning it out. And as you can tell, the tip of my iron is like, it's really tiny. It's like the head of a pencil. And so the fact that it's bigger than the damn capacitor itself, that's how you know how hard this can be for me. But there is a trick to it. So every time you put your tip to the pad and the capacitor, you want to touch them both so they can, you know, carry the heat so they can solder it well together. But the thing is, with the heat, that where it can burn out the capacitor, you only want to leave it for like under a second. You just like an easy in and out. You don't want to leave it for too long because again, you will burn it out. Every time I would put my tip to the... It sounds crazy. I don't want to say pause every time, but every time I put the tip to the capacitor and the ground, I always make sure like to do half a second or so around there. And always have patience with this, guys. You don't want to ruin your switch, especially in OLED. Don't be afraid to clean off the flux and then reapply flux. If you're noob at this, just keep doing it over and over. So right here, you can see since I already tinned the area and then I cleaned it and then fluxed it, now the capacitor and the solder are like literally conjoined. Like it was that easy. I literally in and out. Don't think if that's a good connection. It does look good, but I mean, that's as best it's gonna get for me, and it did the job. So now that I'm done with the scariest part, now I can focus on another capacitor. It's a bigger one, and it's down here. So down here is a 3.3 volts capacitor, I guess, because that's what it's labeled as. This one's super easy because it's a bigger capacitor, and right here you can see I just go in and then it immediately connects. But as you can tell on the right side, you can see I accidentally touched the capacitor. Hopefully it doesn't look like it's connecting anything, but later on I do take that off. But this was literally the easiest capacitor for me because as you can see, this looks perfect. I mean, look at it. It's a big old blob. That's what you want, and it's covering every single piece of the metal on the capacitor, and it didn't connect to the other capacitor. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it does because nothing happens, and they also say it doesn't matter, the experts on modding the switch. But yeah, that's all you really need is just that little blob on that head right there, and you're done with this one. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-tin the C point right here. I believe this connects to the chip on the other side where I showed you guys previously, to the wire that I connected. So I did get a perfect tin. For me, it's perfect because normally I don't really do a good job at tinning. Right here, I pre-tin it, and now I'm just going to connect the wire to it. And that's pretty much it for this point. Not really much to say about it. Also forgot to mention that the wire that's coming from the other side of the motherboard where we connected it, try to keep it as short as possible because if the longer it is, the more slower your speeds are going to be, which is what you don't want. I'm using this wire, which has a little rubber covering around it. I saw people using a just straight up copper wire, just nothing around it. And so I just took my hot iron and just melted the rubber off and then just connected it like that. So now I'm done with 2 ribbons, and now I just need 1 more and then just the Modchip itself. So right here, I'm putting my last ribbon underneath the shield that's on the APU. So this one, you're gonna have to solder onto the APU's capacitors. So at this point, I did run out of SD card storage. I only have 32 gigabytes, and at the time I was not trying to take out all the storage and, you know, just get more space. I just wanted this thing done. I'm just gonna show the end result, but before I do, I'm just gonna explain what I did. So I'm just gonna freeze frame or whatever I need to do here. I have to solder these 2 capacitors on each side to where the gold is showing, and after I solder those, I need to solder the ground pads on the bottom right here. So the grounds I actually did really nice again, and the capacitors on the left side I think I did better than the right side, but overall I would say I did a great job on this ribbon. So after doing all that, I put heat tape on it so nothing else can touch touch it because again it's connected to ground and I don't want the metal shield touching it and whatnot. And speaking of, I also had to bend some of the locks on the metal shield so that way it won't touch anything on the where I soldered, or to leave space for ribbon cables so it won't be pinched or any wires. I'm not going to show that process, but yeah. And then on the other side of the motherboard, I actually had to put another wire on this point here. I think this is the reset point. So after I connect the wire, I'm just going to wrap it around to the top of the motherboard and connect it to the mod chip. Now I'm just going to install the metal shield, and I'm going to use double-sided tape and put it underneath the mod chip and connect it to the metal shield. So after I tape down the mod chip, now I need to connect all the ribbon cables into the mod chip itself. There's only 2 ribbon cables that I need to connect. The one on the right side here and then one at the top. The top one is where I connected all the capacitors, and the right side is where I connected from the APU. And then now I'm going to connect the reset wire onto the mod chip itself here on the very bottom, and then at this point now I'm done. After I check all the ribbon cables are locked into place and everything is good, all the wires are where they need to be, and after that I use the multimeter to test the points that we connected and to see if I'm getting any power through them. If I'm not, that means they're not connected or I did something wrong. And right here you see I'm testing the CPU and all these other points here and these points on the left side of here, and they're all coming out good, so that means that everything is working fine. I connect all the ribbon cables, all the speaker wires, and I connected the battery. After you do all that, I'm just going to turn on the switch, and now it's just going to find the right timings to break the security and whatnot. And after that, I'm just going to lift up the switch, and you will see now it'll say no SD card, which means I jailbroke it. So now that I know that it's completely working, I'm just going to put heat tape over the mod chip itself so that way nothing's touching it again, because I added solder onto it and you just don't want nothing shorting out, you know. So now I'm just going to reassemble the switch. So I added new thermal paste to the APU, and then I just put down the heat shield and it should spread it out. And I need to use my thumbs because nothing's going to press down on it because it's not like a PC, you know. So I'm going to add thermal paste on top of the shield and then press down the heatsink on top of it. And then I'm just going to screw it down, and then I'm going to add more thermal paste on top of it. I also connected the game slot circuit board thing, which is again only 1 screw. And then I connected the heatsink back to where it's supposed to be. And then I put the metal shield on top so it can spread out the thermal paste that I added again. So there was like 3 places that needed thermal paste, which is insane. And then after I screw down the metal shield, I got to connect the antennas, put them through the tape how it was, and then put the plastic back cover on, snap it into place, and then screw it down. And you can turn the switch on and go into Nintendo's original firmware by pressing down the volume button, and you can see me just scrolling through this. So now that I know that it's completely working and the Joy-Cons are connecting, that means it's ready to go. So now to get the actual custom firmware on it, I need to get an SD card, which I bought a terabyte, which is perfect for all the games that I need. At the end of this, I am left with 200 gigabytes, so I used up 800 gigabytes of storage. I think I have over 100 games. So after adding all the software onto the SD card, which I'm not going to show, you can watch guides on that. So I'm just going to lift up the stand up here, and there's an easy access micro SD slot, and you just slide it into there. And then all I gotta do is just power on my switch. So once you see the Hecate symbol, that means you booted into the custom firmware correctly. If it says Nintendo, then just shut down the Nintendo Switch again and turn it back on. And hopefully it says Hecate again. If not, then something went wrong. Right here, I'm just fixing the time and date here. And then now I need to configure the SD card itself. So now I'm going to add a partition on the SD card. It's going to analyze the SD card usage and then give me this screen here. So now what I need to do is I need to put the EMU MMC raw all the way up to here where it says 58 full. So right here, you can see how much space is going to take up the SD card. And since I have a terabyte, that's like 58 gigabytes. It's like nothing. And then now I got to put the next step and then actually add the partition. I think what this does is backs up the Nintendo firmware or something. Yeah, it just backs up whatever, right? I think it backs up everything. I don't know. So this will take a long time. I'll say like around 10 minutes. I don't remember much. So this will take a while, but after it's done, now I need to go into the lockpick thing. So what this does is I'm going to back up the keys of my Switch so that way if it ever bricks, I can use this to fix it. Once you brick a console, it's useless as a brick, hence the word. So right here, I'm just going to dump the EMU NAND, and then after that, reboot back into Hecate so I can go into tools and then back up the eMMC. I'm going to back up the eMMC boot 0 and boot 1. So after it finishes and verifies, you now need to go into eMMC raw GPP. So this one will take a long time, depending on what Switch you have and depending on the SD card itself. But once it's done, as you can see, it took 36 minutes from mine to finish and verify itself. And then now I just got to close out of here and then go into home and then go into eMMC. So now I got to create an eMMC, and I'm going to create it on an SD partition and put it on part 1. So this one again will take a while. And as you can see here, it took 15 minutes, close to 60 minutes. So after that's done, I can finally close out again. And right here, it'll say enabled, which is telling me it went well. So now I'm just going to go into my console info and then click on my micro SD. And it's going to tell me all I need to know about my SD card. If the vendor ID says fake or something like that, then you have a bad SD card and you probably cheaped out on it. But I have a Samsung one and it's a pretty well-known brand. So it's not going to be, you know, a cheap knockoff or fake. And right here on the bottom, you can see that I have the SD card in the format of FAT32, which is what you need because it's more stable for the Switch. Because the exFAT, they say you'll run into problems down the line, which I am not down to do. So now I'm going to show my megabytes per second transfer rate. You want it at 400. If you had the wires short enough, it will say 400. If you had it a little bit longer, then it might say less, 200. So now I'm going to show you what firmware you can boot into. There's 3 firmware. The one that I'm booting into currently is the custom firmware, where it blocks online stuff, so you won't get your Switch banned. The other 2, I know one of them is half and half custom firmware and that official firmware. Don't really know what goes on there, but I believe that if you install an app or a game through the jailbreaking way, it's gonna ban your console, because again, you're half going into the official firmware, I guess. And obviously the official firmware is if you want to play your legal backups and stuff and, you know, play online, nothing will happen to you there. But for me, it's pretty much useless because I have 0 games. But anyway, after I boot into the custom firmware, you can see once you go into the gallery that you can see all your Homebrew apps. I did end up finding another installer called a Woo installer. It's like this anime girl thing. But yeah, before I get into that, because I didn't do that till later on, you're gonna see me. I actually ended up installing Wonder, Marvel's Wonder. I'll put a little bit of audio in the background. Hopefully it's not too loud.
Where's the party? So many ways to have a great time.
I did end up buying a Switch controller, this one right here. So I bought it, and as you can see, it looks pretty nice. It's I'm gonna do a little unboxing here, but it has colors on the shell itself, and when you turn it on, which is pretty dope. And then I'm gonna come over here to my Switch, and you're gonna see me installing the games. And again, I can't tell you where I install the games, but it's pretty easy. Just search up the game and put ROM, Switch ROM, and you'll find it pretty easily. I don't condone it, by the way. Legally, I have to say that. But, I don't condone it. Oh, get your legal backups, guys. Come on. So anyways, after I connected my controller, I also ordered this bundle where I bought a Switch case and a screen protector for it. The screen protector is pretty nice. It's a lot of features to this screen protector. I'm not going to go into it. And I got this case. It's a white OLED case. It's from Orsley. Yeah, whatever. And once I open it, you're going to see that it comes with a bunch of stuff. So it came with this little baggie of earphones. I did test out the audio quality. I will get into that later on in the video. But for right now, I'm unpack the rest of this. So right here is a charger for it, which I don't really need because I use an Android and I have Type-Cs everywhere. And here is a game cartridge holder. Don't need it, you know. And then here is a stylus, I believe. But it's also a pen. Don't know why they would give me a pen for a Switch. Like, why not just a stylus itself, you know? I mean, the stylus is nice. As you can see here, I'm testing it out, moving it back and forth, and you can see some of the games I installed here. But yeah, and the next thing that came with it was the hardcover. It has open slots on the top right and top left, so you can slide in and out the Joy-Cons, which is super nice. So you don't have to keep taking it off over and over to slide out Joy-Cons and whatnot. So right here, you're going to see I'm actually going to slide the Joy-Cons in because I'm going to put the Switch in first, and then you're going to see me slide the Joy-Cons in. It is hard to do this one-handed, so bear with me. But what's also dope about this case is that it is dock friendly, so I can put it in the dock while the case is on. And right here, you can see I'm playing Mortal Kombat 11, and you can see that it fits perfectly on the dock. So right here, I am going to test out the earphones. I'm going to first show you what it sounds like coming from my Switch. And then now when I connected the earphones, obviously you're not going to be able to hear it. But for me, the earphones aren't the greatest. They do sound cheap, but it doesn't sound bad. It's not horrible, so it is listenable. But what's also really cool about modding the Switch is that you can get every single amiibo that you want. So you need this app called Emuibu. And when you start the game, you're going to turn on the overlay for it. And then you're going to want to turn a setting on. I forgot what I did because it'll say right here, current game is not intercepted or intercepted. But yeah, after you're in the game and it's intercepted and whatnot, or it's gonna say emulation emulation status on or off. So after you get this working, you can see right here that not every single amiibo was supported by some games. I don't know which ones are supported, but I'm just gonna put random ones. Like I did this Detective Pikachu, and I'm pretty sure this is for a game mode because it was like a Pokemon type thing, and it also says that it was a reward when I try to put it back again, because it tells the system that you're always having that amiibo on the little NFC reader or whatever, so you have to go and change it again or just flip it off. So right here I tried this Yoshi dog thing called Yarn Poochie and you can just basically get a bunch of rewards for, I guess, that Pokemon game mode. I don't really know, but you can see all the tabs, like I say, Super Mario Bro amiibos. I didn't really get into all the amiibos. I just wanted to see if it worked or not, and it did. So I think in total there's like around 880 some amiibos. That's a lot, and I have every single one of them. It did take a while to download them though. That's pretty much it to this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you are thinking of modding the Switch, I will say at least practice a bit. Watch some videos on heat temperatures, on what you need, you know, and just practice on just random stuff. If I can do it, you can do it. Just be careful, guys. When you get frustrated, just take breaks. If you feel like you're moving too fast, take a break, man. It doesn't really matter. Take the whole day if you need. Just be slow, guys. You don't want to ruin a Switch. If you do mess it up, I do know a guy who repairs and mods it for you. I don't know him personally. I just watched his video and he's pretty good at modding Switches, and I kind of learned the heat temperature and all that stuff from him. And yeah, so I'll just leave his link in the description if you guys want to learn from him or just watch his guides and stuff. But again, thanks for watching the video, guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one as much as I did. Pretty fun experience, but very stressful because I thought I would mess up stuff and I couldn't do it. But I kept doubting myself. At the end of the day, I did do it, which is why I'm so proud of myself. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll catch you guys in my next video, which is probably a guide for zombies.